It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Take a look at the 5 and 10, glistening once again, with candy canes and silver lanes aglow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, toys in every store. But the prettiest sight to see is a holly that will be on your own front door. And a Merry Christmas to everybody from Uncle Mitch at Uncle Mitch's Story Time. We've got a great story for you today. Let's see who's out there. Oh, there's Mason. Hi, Mason. I haven't seen you for a long time. And there's Zach and Mackenzie. Hi, Mackenzie. And there's Nathan and Kaylee and Liam. How big you've gotten, Liam. It is so wonderful to see you all. Boys and girls, today's story is called It's a Wonderful Life for Kids. It's a Wonderful Life was originally a movie written by Frank Capra, or directed by Frank Capra, and it premiered in December 20 of 1946. And in the book, there's an angel whose name is Clarence, and George Bailey is the main character. Well, George Bailey had a son whose name was Tommy Bailey. That was his name in the movie. And his real name was Jimmy Hawkins. He was 4.5 years old when the movie was made. And then, 60 years later, in 2006, Jimmy Hawkins decided, in honor of the 60th anniversary of that movie that has become a classic, It's a Wonderful Life, he was going to write a new version that showed the entire story from the viewpoint of Tommy Bailey. And this is that story. The illustrations are by Douglas B. Jones. It's a Wonderful Life for Kids. A very worried George and Mary Bailey were praying for their son Tommy's safe return. "Please bring Tommy home," said his sister Zuzu. Here they are praying. Their pleas were heard way up in heaven. "Looks like we'll have to send somebody down," said one angel. "I know this family," said an angel named Clarence. "I think Arthur should handle this one." In a flash, a third angel joined them. "You sent for me, sir?" "Yes, Arthur. An 11-year-old boy on Earth needs your help," said Clarence. "He's thinking of running away from home. He's scared, very scared." "Sir, if I accomplish my mission, will I get my wings? It has been 205 years. "Arthur, I asked that same question once. You do a good job with Tommy Bailey, and you'll get your wings. If you're to help, you'll want to know something about him. Now look down there." "But I can't see." "Oh, I forgot. You haven't got your wings yet. There. Now can you see anything?" "Why, yes. This is amazing." There he is looking way down onto Earth, from way up in heaven. "That's the Bailey house at 320 Sycamore," said Clarence. "Oh, they're having a Christmas party," said Arthur. "They all look so happy, except that boy touching the wall. Who's that?" "That's your problem," said Clarence. "Tommy Bailey, back when he was 4. And there, let's see, is the Christmas tree over here, and all the Bailey family, and there's little Tommy Bailey over here when he was 4 years old. See that? The wall felt strangely hot to Tommy. He made his way through the crowd to his dad, and he yanked on his dad's coat. "Excuse me! Excuse me!" he said. "Excuse you for what?" asked his father. "The wall is really hot, Daddy," said Tommy. "Don't bother Daddy, Tommy. He's busy," said his brother Pete. Concerned, George followed Tommy to the wall and laid his hand right on the wall. And then he called over Bert the cop to examine it as well. You can see there is George Bailey and his son Tommy, and there's Bert the cop, the police officer. "It looks like something's wrong," said Arthur. "What is it?" "You'll see," said Clarence. "First, let's take a look at Tommy a little later when he's 7 years old." As Tommy swept the floor at Gower Drugs, he talked to a regular customer sitting alone at a table. Now here's Tommy when he's 7 years old. "I see you here all the time," Tommy said to the woman. "You must really like ice cream. My name's Tommy Bailey." The woman smiled. "Pleased to meet you, Tommy. I'm Mrs. Davis. And yes, I like ice cream." She lowered her voice to a whisper. "But to tell you the truth, the real reason I come here is to see Mr. Gower. He seems like such a nice man." And there she is, talking to Tommy. "Oh, he is a nice man," Tommy agreed. "He gives me free ice cream for sweeping up." Tommy looked toward the counter where Mr. Gower was working. "I wish I could go cheer him up, though. He's been real sad since his wife died." "I know how that is," Mrs. Davis said with a sigh. Just then Mr. Gower came over. "Well, Tommy, you've done a fine job. What flavor will it be?" "Vanilla, please. Oh, and say hi to Mrs. Davis. She thinks you're nice." "Tommy, I didn't ask you to introduce me to Mr. Gower. Oh, I'm so embarrassed." "I'm glad he said something," said Mr. Gower. "I've noticed you too. I'll be closing as soon as I make Tommy his ice cream cone. Then would you care to go for a walk?" "Oh, yes, I'd like that very much," she said. Because of Tommy's introduction, Clarence told Arthur, Mr. Gower and Mrs. Davis eventually got married. You watch this, Arthur. Tommy is 9, and he has a paper route now. There he is. He's much older. 9 years old now. One very hot summer day, Mrs. Carter offered Tommy a glass of lemonade. As they were talking, Mrs. Carter started gasping for air. Then she asked for help. Without hesitation, Tommy ran down into the street to flag down a passing car. "You gotta help, mister!" Tommy said to the driver. The man pulled over and rushed to Mrs. Carter, while Tommy went inside to call the doctor. In a few moments, Mrs. Carter was feeling better again. Tommy and the man waited until the doctor arrived before going their separate ways. A very grateful Mrs. Carter waved goodbye to Tommy. "I don't understand," said Arthur. "Tommy is obviously a very good boy. Why would he want to run away?" "We're getting there," said Clarence. "Well, now, Tommy is 11 years old. He's been collecting money for the 6th graders for a library fund." And there you see a picture of him, and he's got money in his hand. He is 11 years old. 11. "Wow," said Tommy, counting the money in the envelope. "We've collected more than $80. "Well, that should buy a lot of new books," said Susan. "Thank you for all your help," Tommy said. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Well, that's okay, Tommy," said Susan. "You're always helping me." As Susan turned to leave, the school books and papers that she was carrying fell to the floor. Tommy put the money envelope up on the windowsill, and he bent down to help her pick them up. And there you see the papers and books all on the floor, and he put the money right there in an envelope on the windowsill. "See, what did I just tell you?" Susan said with a grin. Just then Nick ran up to them. "Tommy, weren't you supposed to meet your dad at work? You better get going right away." Tommy hit his forehead with his palm. "Oh, I forgot I promised to help him after school today. See you tomorrow, guys," he called as he sped down the hall, leaving the money behind on the windowsill. "Isn't this Roy Rogers coin neat?" Tommy said to Cousin Tilly, the receptionist at the Bailey Building and Loan. "I ordered it through the mail. It's going to be my good luck charm." And here's Cousin Tilly, as you can see. with Tommy. "Yes, that's pretty swell, Tommy. Happy trails to you, as Roy Rogers would say," said Cousin Tilly. "Now put it away and get those folders into alphabetical order before your father..." Oops, too late. Here he is now. And here you can see Mr. Bailey, who just came in. That's Tommy's father. "Tommy, your teacher just called," said Mr. Bailey. "She asked about the library fund money. You were supposed to deliver it to the principal. What happened to it, son?" Tommy hit his forehead again. Ugh! As he remembered that he'd left the envelope behind. "Oh, I know right where it is. Can I go back to school and bring it to the office, Dad?" "Sure, but you better hurry. The school will be locked up soon. Do you want me to give you a lift?" "No, Dad, you're busy. I'll run over and I'll be back before you even know I'm gone." But when he got there, he saw that the envelope was gone. Where could it be? "Hello, Tommy. I just spoke with your father," said Tommy's teacher. "Did you get the money to the principal's office?" Tommy didn't know what to say. "Not yet, Mrs. Welch. I'm just going there now." "Oh, I'm afraid you're too late. It's all locked up. Why don't you give me the envelope for safekeeping tonight, and then we can meet in the office first thing tomorrow morning." And here's Mrs. Welch, the teacher, talking to Tommy. "I've got a better idea," said Tommy, walking backwards down the hall. "I'll give it to my dad. He can keep it in the building alone overnight. It is a bank, after all." Tommy turned and sprinted off. "But Tommy," said Mrs. Welch, as Tommy disappeared around the corner. And Tommy ran away. Why? Yes, because he couldn't find the envelope, and he didn't know what to tell his teacher. Tommy ran all the way to the bridge on the edge of town. He was desperate. He had no idea where the money had gone, or how he could possibly replace it by tomorrow morning. "Please help me," he prayed with his eyes shut tight. "Everybody will think I stole it. My parents and my friends will never forgive me." When Tommy opened his eyes, a man was standing next to him. Tommy backed up a little. Who are you?" Tommy stuttered. "Well, Tommy, I'm Arthur, Angel, second class. I'm the answer to your prayers." "How do you know my name?" Tommy asked suspiciously. "I'm not supposed to talk to strangers." "Well, I'm no stranger," said Arthur. "I'm your guardian angel, and I'm here to help you." "Well, if you're an angel, where are your wings?" Tommy peered behind Arthur's back to see if he could find the wings. "Well, I haven't won my wings yet," said Arthur. "But you'll help me, won't you?" "Well, I'm the one who needs help," said Tommy. "I need $80, and really fast, too." "Oh, we don't have money in heaven," said Arthur. "Well, then how am I going to fix this?" Tommy asked, tears welling up in his eyes. "I should just disappear." "Oh, it's not worth running away for $80, said Arthur. "You don't realize how important you are to other people." "Oh, yeah?" said Tommy. "Well, tomorrow they're going to wish I'd never been born. I already wish I'd never been born." Arthur heaved a deep sigh. Not this again. When will people ever learn? What do you think, Clarence? "Who's Clarence?" Tommy asked. "Who are you talking to?" "Yes, Clarence. That'll do it," said Arthur. "Okay, you got your wish, Tommy. You were never born." Just then a big swirl of wind came up, and the snow stopped falling. See the swirl of wind? Tommy reached into his pants pocket and then frantically checked his coat pockets. "You aren't going to find your lucky coin," said Arthur. "You've never existed. You were never born, so there's no coin." "Great! I must have lost that too," said Tommy angrily. "I do exist. I'm Tommy Bailey. I live at 320 Sycamore." "There is no house at 320 Sycamore," said Arthur. "I don't believe you," said Tommy. "Well, go see for yourself," Arthur suggested. When they reached 320 Sycamore, or what used to be 320 Sycamore, there was no house there. You can see it's just an empty lot. "What happened?" Tommy asked Arthur. "The house burned down that Christmas Eve. You weren't around to tell your dad about the wall being hot. It was an electrical fire." Tommy's mind reeled in confusion. I don't get what's happening. Where's my family? Maybe Mrs. Carter will know something." Arthur looked up toward the sky, and he said, "Now I see what you mean about this not being so easy, Clarence." When Tommy rang the doorbell at Mrs. Carter's house, a stranger answered. "Hi, is Mrs. Carter home? I really need to talk to her," said Tommy. "Mrs. Carter," said the man. "She passed away last year, son. I'm sorry." Arthur tried to explain as Tommy stumbled his way down the street. "Don't you see? You weren't there to help that day when she fainted. Each life touches so many other lives. If you aren't around, Tommy, then it leaves an awful hole." Tommy ignored him. "I don't feel so good. Maybe Mr. Gower can help." Tommy ran down the street and into Gower Drugs. A bell on the door rang as he opened it. And the bell sounded a little bit like this. "Oh, somebody just made it," said Arthur from behind him. "Every time a bell rings, it means an angel got his wings." Tommy was surprised that the old guy had kept up with him and wasn't out of breath at all. He approached the soda jerk behind the counter and said, "Excuse me, is Mr. Gower in?" "You must not be from around here. Mr. Gower doesn't own this place anymore." "What do you mean? He always gives me free ice cream ever since he got remarried. I introduced him to Mrs. Davis and..." The soda jerk interrupted. "Look, kid, I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Gower never married anyone except Mrs. Gower. When she died, he gave everything up and moved to the old folks' home. He's just a lonely old man right now." "Tommy, you weren't there to introduce Mr. Gower to Mrs. Davis," Arthur explained patiently. "Don't you see how many people you helped? Even at your age, you've had a wonderful life." Just then, the Bailey family, George, Mary, Zuzu, Janie, and Pete walked in. Tommy ran to his parents. "Oh, Mom! Dad! I missed you so much! I thought you were..." Mr. Bailey held Tommy at arm's length. The rest of the Baileys gave each other puzzled looks. I'm afraid you have us confused with someone else," Mr. Bailey said. "Are you all right?" asked Mrs. Bailey. "Can we help you?" Seeing the blank looks on his family's faces, Tommy panicked. "Don't you know me? It's Tommy, your son. What happened?" "Come on, Daddy," said Janie. "I want some ice cream." Tommy turned to Arthur for help, but Arthur was nowhere to be seen. Tommy raced back to the bridge where his prayers had been heard before. There he is at the bridge, and he's praying.
Please, Mr. Guardian Angel, I want everything to go back to the way it was. I won't ever think about running away again. I promise.
He burst into tears.
Please help me get back. I don't care if I get in trouble for losing the money. I'll pay it back somehow. I just want to be Tommy Bailey again. Please, get me back.
Tommy looked up as snow began falling again. Hoping against hope, Tommy reached into his pocket, and he found this lucky coin.
Happy trails!
He cried joyfully, punching the air. Tommy ran home, passing all the spots he loved.
Hello, Gower Drugs!
As he passed Mrs. Carter's house, he saw her sweeping the walk.
Hi, Mrs. Carter! I'll help you with that later. First, I gotta get home.
Hurry, Tommy, she answered. They're all waiting for you. Tommy opened the front door of his house. Yes, it was there. To find his entire family, along with Susan, Nick, and his teacher, Mrs. Welch. Tommy rushed into his parents' arms, and this time, they hugged him back.
I love you, Mom and Dad,
Tommy exclaimed.
My baby! My babies!
Said Mrs. Bailey. Mr. Bailey said, Tommy, your friends have something to say to you. Susan looked a little sheepish. Tommy, after you ran out of the school, I realized that you left the library money behind by mistake. I took it home with me, figuring that we could turn it into the principal tomorrow morning. When your mom called, asking if I'd seen you, I brought it right over. I should have called earlier. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault, Nick offered. If I hadn't distracted you, then you wouldn't have left it. No, don't blame yourselves. You're both good friends, and everything turned out okay in the end. Thank you so much, Tommy said. Mr. Bailey said, someone once told me that no man is a failure who has friends. Come on, everybody. It's dinner time. And just then, Mrs. Bailey rang the dinner bell. Food's on! There you can see the Christmas tree and all the family gathered around it, along with Tommy's friends. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings, said Zuzu, taking her place at the table. That's right, Zuzu, Tommy said. He punched the air again and he whispered, good going, Arthur! And that's the story of It's a Wonderful Life for kids. I hope you really enjoyed this story, and I hope that you'll tune in again soon for more stories from Uncle Mitch at Uncle Mitch's Storytime. For right now, I want to wish you all happy holidays and the merriest Christmas ever. Bye for now.